Hello, believers. Welcome to the One True Church. I'm Hugh Whitmore. Today's Bible instruction is entitled, Salvation is Near, You Just Have to Make It Happen. In this lesson, I'll define salvation, and I'll show how the three major religions have been corrupted to deny God's salvation, and tell you what you can do to bring about salvation so that Jesus will come back for us. Christians believe that salvation means one thing, which is their trip to heaven, but heaven is secondary to salvation. Salvation primarily means the return of God's stolen kingdom, which Satan stole in Genesis 2:4 through 3:4, when he created sin, as depicted by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you desire the knowledge of how this tree works and runs the earth, just search YouTube for the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and my name, Hugh Whitmore. When God eventually earns back his stolen kingdom, the secondary result is that those who helped God earn it back can join him in his renewed spiritual kingdom for eternity. This return of the kingdom and the rules to make the return happen are shown in great deal in the prophecy of the book of Revelation. Salvation is the main theme of the Bible, and salvation is the only thing the Father wants. Salvation dwells only with the God of the Bible and is obtainable only by the rules he sent with Jesus. No other religion can provide salvation. Only the God of the Bible, our loving Father, can provide salvation because he is the creator of all things, and only he has had his earthly kingdom stolen. So you've chosen the right religion. The salvation God offers is not given, it's earned. God has given us a job to do. Eternal salvation can only be fulfilled by the obedient, righteous works of God's elect, by works that glorify the Father and empower him to overcome sin and Satan. As indicated in Psalm 29:1, give unto the Lord, O ye mighty, give unto the Lord glory and strength. And Revelation 4:11, you are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. Also, you can see my video, The Most Important Instruction in the Bible to understand the process of glorifying God to produce salvation. Salvation and the return of God's kingdom will only come when enough believers follow the rules that God has provided. The Bible is both a spiritual book and a numerical book. Some specific number of obedient believers will be needed to fully glorify God to allow him to overcome the devil. Maybe that believer will be you. In the Old Testament, God offered the fulfillment of salvation exclusively to Israel as a group by the law given through Moses. However, Israel rejected God's rules, and God warned Israel many times that salvation would be taken from them. However, God continued to love Israel, so he sent Jesus to give Israel one last chance to fulfill salvation. The Father sent a new set of laws with Jesus to replace the old law given through Moses, but the same method to fulfill salvation was in effect, which was for us to do obedient, righteous works to glorify God. This method works within the rules and physics of God's creation, in which God has something physical, that's works, create something spiritual, which is called glory in the Bible, to empower him to overcome Satan. Thus, God's offer of salvation is the only method possible on earth. By rejecting Jesus, Israel once again rejected God's offer. So Jesus then opened up salvation fully to the Gentiles, although individual Jews, of course, can still enter salvation if they choose. You, as one of God's elect and righteous, hold the power to fulfill God's salvation. First, you must turn away from the false apostle and false prophet, Paul, because he was an evil man sent by evil people to deny God's plan of eternal salvation and steal your eternity. You must then dedicate your life to living and preaching the kingdom teachings God sent with Jesus. Then salvation will be earned. God will destroy all evil on the earth and we will then all live in eternity with the Father and the Son in the renewed spiritual kingdom. This is up to you. You have the power. The reason salvation hasn't happened yet is because Paul's false testimony took over the church. Based on the pattern of infiltration of major religions by the Satanists who rule the earth. And it's not just the Christian church that's been infiltrated. Adherents to the three major religions are all turned away from the truth of God's salvation by a set of false writings that deny salvation is by the teachings God sent with Jesus. For example, Islam teaches that their belief begins with the God of the Bible. I don't know if you know that. And they do study the Bible, so Muslims follow the one true God to a point. But then Muslims are turned away from helping to fulfill salvation because they reject Jesus as the final prophet. So Muslims don't follow the rules and physical actions of salvation, and salvation never comes. This in the Quran are the vehicles to manipulate Muslim believers into blaspheming God and glorifying Satan, so salvation remains unfulfilled. They start with God and then they turn from God. Observant Jews in Judaism believe in the God of the Bible and follow him to a point, but then are turned away from helping to fulfill salvation because they reject Jesus as the anointed one. Thus, observant Jews don't follow the rules and physical actions of salvation, and salvation never comes. This and false writings like the Kabbalah and the Talmud are the vehicles used to manipulate Jewish believers into blaspheming God and glorifying Satan, so salvation is not fulfilled. Now we get to Christians. Christians believe in the God of the Bible and follow him to a point, but are turned away from helping to fulfill salvation because Paul's false testimony of grace has been inserted falsely in the Bible. Thus, Christians don't follow the rules and physical actions of salvation, and salvation never comes. This and Paul's writings are the vehicles used to manipulate believers into blaspheming God by reciting Paul's blasphemous words that glorify Satan. Thus, salvation is not fulfilled. Each of these three major religions expresses belief in the creator of the Bible. Each of these groups has been infiltrated by the standard two-pronged approach that Satan uses to trick humanity. The Satanists who rule the earth always do one thing to get another. In this case, they start with the truth and replace the truth with a lie. Each of these religious groups, including our own faith, has been led toward and then away from the only way to fulfill salvation, overcome sin and Satan, and return God's kingdom to its fully spiritual status. And of course, the dark forces must do this. If salvation is fulfilled, those who produce these massive worldwide lies will suffer more than just a bad day. This is why God's wrath is so extreme in the end, and this is why the evil ones running the dark force act so egregiously on the earth. Salvation and the return of the kingdom is well within our reach in this age of knowledge and connection. You just have to make it happen. And it will happen if enough believers in the one true God return to the proper instructions given to us by our loving Creator. For Christians, that means to turn from Paul's false testimony and joyfully return to the kingdom teachings the Father sent with the Son. We are in the end times now. As the number of God's elect grows to the numbers needed by the Father, the world will become even more chaotic and violent and evil than it has been these last few years, which ironically shows we're on the right track. Then the end will come. We will be raptured up to the throne to be with Jesus and the Father, and the New Jerusalem will descend for all of us to live in forever.